Prison Service to also give his opening remarks.
Madam Chair, National Commission on Human Rights, the Commissioners present here today. Mr. Harrison from EU has just spoken. Professor Hoyle and Fabius who've done a good job presenting the report to us, which we'll see shortly. Distinguished guests and of course representatives of the embassies who are here. Good morning. I'm here to represent the Commissioner General of Prisons, Brigadier Retired John Warioba, who has some other commitments elsewhere, officially sent me to represent him. We appreciate the work done by the Death Penalty Project team and the National Commission on Human Rights in taking forward the judgment by the judiciary, which was very important in dealing with this matter of those who are in death row in our prisons. And to us, among the issues addressed by the court was the matter of sentencing, in that the court directed that when sentencing, the courts do consider the age of the offender. If the offender is a first offender, whether the offender pleaded guilty, character and record of the offender, commission of the offense in response to gender-based violence, the remorsefulness of the offender, the possibility of reform and rehabilitation of the offender, which is our main mandate in prisons, and any other factor that the court considers relevant. So for us, we found that after that ruling, many of our prisoners went back to court to open cases, looked at afresh, and some are now offered the opportunity to train, because when they are at the death row, they are not trained. They don't get opportunities to go to school, they don't get opportunities to get gainful skills which government offers. So that was a milestone in our case, that the offenders now are able to get skills which, once they are released, they can use them for gainful employment, and that, in a way, will stop them from reoffending. So we appreciate the fact that this judgment afforded us the possibility of even decongesting our prisons, because one of the biggest challenges is congestion in the prisons. So by having this alternative sentence, some have their cases looked afresh and end up being released, because the magistrates have been given the discretion. Earlier on, they did not have that discretion because of how the sentence was. So we appreciate the judiciary for giving us that guidance, and its impact is that now we are able to serve the offenders, our clients, in a better way by giving them skills in our prisons. So we appreciate. I don't want to preempt what the team will tell us. I'll wait until we interrogate the report together as a group here. Thank you so much, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mwakazi. I think you send our great appreciation to the Commissioner General, because we've never had issues of accessibility in terms of requiring information. Everything that we want has always been provided to us. So we look forward to this partnership, not just on the work on abolition, but all the work that we do on issues of penal reforms. So send our appreciation to Commissioner General. We are expecting a team from the British High Commission who are yet to come, but the moment they come, we'll give them an opportunity to say something. But at this point, I want to invite His Elect. British High Commission.
While we're waiting, maybe I can just do a little bit of housekeeping. while we're waiting.
In 2 minutes.
In 1 minute.
In 1 minute.
Just while we're waiting, I think he's downstairs and he's just coming upstairs. I thought it might be useful just to give you an indication of the kind of material you might receive, because there's a lot of information that we're going to share, and specifically Professor Carolyn Hoyle. So it's also a good opportunity, I think, to thank Professor Carolyn Hoyle from Oxford University, who the Death Penalty Project, together with Kenya National Commission, commissioned to do this study. So it is an independent piece of research by an academic. So for us, that's very, very important. If we're going to produce empirical data, it needs to be independent. So I would like to thank formally Professor Carolyn Hoyle and her team at Oxford University for producing this report. At the end of today, I understand that the team here will provide everybody a copy of the actual report. Some of you may have seen it, most of you probably haven't. It's going to be provided both in electronic form, but also as a hard copy, so you will receive this at some stage towards the end. In addition, what we've tried to do, because there is so much information to distill, we've produced some shorter notes. So we've produced what we call a briefing note, which really sets out some of the key bits of data from the study. So that will be very, very helpful. And then what we try to do is, because it covers such sort of wide ground, we've produced what we, again, I don't know if they're called briefing notes or they're called shorter notes, I have no idea, but we've produced 3 items which speak to specific parts of the report. The first one speaks to the socio-economic, demographic and welfare profile of prisoners. So very specific about that. The second one is about prisoners' decisions to offend, and this issue about deterrence. And then the third short note that we prepared is something that deals with the experiences of those within the criminal justice system and incarceration. So the idea is really, for lots of people, there are specific areas that perhaps are of more interest than the whole report. So we tried, I hope, our very best to put it and distill it into something that can be used. So this will all be provided at the end.
Thank you, Fabius. Thank you. So it's a lot of work that has gone into putting all this together. So at this juncture, I want to have the pleasure of inviting our chairperson to make her opening remarks. Karibu, Chair.
Thank you very much, Samson. Distinguished representatives of government present here today, distinguished representatives of the various civil society organizations that have joined us, we thank you. Development partners present, distinguished representatives of human rights defenders, the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. And to thank most sincerely Professor Caroline and your team for this report and this launch we're having today. The Death Penalty Project, we thank you so much for your commitment to this project and the culmination of it, which is the launch of this report today. It is indeed my utmost honor and pleasure to be part of this momentous occasion for the launch of the report, that Living with a Death Sentence in Kenya, Prisoners' Experiences of Crime, Punishment, and Death Row. This focuses on the socio-economic aspects of the death row inmates in Kenya and puts a human face to prison and what prisoners go through. I want to note that the launch of this report comes hot on the heels of the launch of 2 other reports that was done last year in July. One was the death penalty in Kenya, a punishment that has died out in practice, Part 1A, a public that is ready to accept abolition, and Part 2, overwhelming support for abolition among opinion leaders. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and partners both locally and internationally have put up a spirited fight for the abolition of death penalty in Kenya. This call has been guided by the number of factors from a human rights perspective, and these include, among others, 1, the fact that death penalty is contrary to human rights. The right to life is a fundamental right, as we all know, and is enshrined in several human rights instruments. and therefore it is imperative that we as Kenya live up to our international commitment to respect that right irrespective of the circumstances. Secondly, death penalty is not a deterrent. Research has indicated that death penalty is not effective in fighting crime, and therefore its application does not make the society any safer. Violence in form of death penalty only contributes to more violence by the populace. Third, revenge is not justice. Revenge in the form of death penalty only perpetuates violence and suffering and weakens the very, very concept of justice that we are trying to achieve. Fourth, the death penalty is irreversible once it is meted out. Evidence has indicated that there has been instances of miscarriage of justice, and this normally occurs, and it's possible to kill innocent people. This is due to poor legal representation, ineffective justice systems, among other issues. It is therefore very, very sad if we can allow the death penalty to continue to be in place. Fifth, death penalty amounts to torture. The death penalty is a cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. It is a punishment that denies all hope as you live in constant fear of being killed year in, year out. This is coupled with the poor detention conditions, methods of execution, and the psychological distress that accompanies a death sentence. Sixth, it is discriminatory in nature. Its application is discriminatory and targets those from disadvantaged backgrounds who cannot, in most instances, afford good legal representations, have poor knowledge of the legal system, and among others, research shows that this normally targets people who are probably innocent of the crimes they are being charged for. And finally, it is incompatible with rehabilitation. The practice is a denial of the capacity for reintegration and rehabilitation of offenders. The goal of any justice system should be to rehabilitate and not to punish. So the perpetration of the carrying out of death penalty is therefore not encouraged and should be abolished. With the above enumerated issues, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, as a national human rights institution, has continued to play a crucial role in advancing the state towards the abolition debate. In this regard, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has been part and parcel of many initiatives on this campaign towards abolition of the death penalty. I'll enumerate just a few of them. One, we have partnerships. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has partnered with several stakeholders, both locally and internationally, in the abolition campaign. These include the Death Penalty Project, who are here with us today. We include Reprieve, Katiba Institute, the Office of the Attorney General, the Kenya Prison Services, amongst other institutions. The second way we engage is through research. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, working with partners, has carried out research leading to publications on the subject matter. In 2007, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights conducted its first research leading to a position paper. The position paper number 2 of 2007 on the abolition of death penalty in Kenya is in place, and it has set pace for other discussions on abolition of the death penalty. We also conduct education, and we have been actively participating on education campaigns on the abolition of the death penalty. This education targets different sectors of the community that includes the general public, lawmakers, state institutions, and non-state actors. We also, as a commission, engage in litigation. The commission convenes a panel of lawyers who litigate and offer support to death row inmates. We then also, as a commission, we have international reporting obligations, and we lead the country in reporting on the state obligations to various international mechanisms, including the Committee Against Torture. And for example, the country has just finished the reporting cycle on the Convention Against Torture and the African Charter, where the issue of death penalty was raised and discussed at length. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights provided alternative reports to the mechanisms, and these are under discussion. The other way we engage is through receiving complaints. We are a complaints handling institution, and as such, we have received several complaints on human rights violations, especially violations regarding persons sentenced to death and issues around places of detention. The Kenya National Commission of Human Rights escalates these complaints to the duty bearers so that lasting solutions, policies, and change in legislation can take place. Finally, we as an institution engage in visiting places of detention. This is a role which we have played since the inception of the Commission. The visits give us an opportunity to understand the conditions under which inmates are kept in Kenya, and also gives us an opportunity to engage with the detention or correctional facilities and enable us to be able to advocate for the rights of those who are incarcerated in those institutions. So these are the various ways in which the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights continues to engage in the issue of death penalty. We as a commission are indeed committed to seeing the death penalty abolished in Kenya. The wind of change is sweeping across Africa, as we have been told. It is a pity Kenya, which is normally a trailblazer, is being left behind on this issue. But we are not quite asleep. A lot of steps have taken place. We have seen research carried out by the National Crime Research Center. We've seen a lot of litigation on the matter. We have the Mutiso case, the Mwaura case, the very famous Muratetu case, and all these are working towards trying to abolish the death penalty. We know that through litigation, a lot of change can happen, and we are certain that the wind of change is soon going to be upon us. The Attorney General set up a task force to review the mandatory death penalty and resentencing, and this is work in progress. And these actions are being noted and actually being pushed quite strongly by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. As a commission, we assure you of our continued support. We undertake to leverage engagements with the parliamentary group and to work with the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament to push for change in law so that before the expiry of the term of this parliament, we hope to see the abolition of the death penalty. We thank you all.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the remarks and enumerating the good work that we do on the abolition work, which has been made possible by support